When President Donald Trump took control of DC's police force and deployed the National Guard, questions were raised about how much the federal government could control the district. It also sparked concerns the federal government could federalize law enforcement in other cities.
We have other cities also that are bad, very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is.
Here's what we know now. Can Trump federalize DC?
Without an extension by Congress, this temporary oversight of the DC police force would run out in a month. For now, his control is over just the police force. The city government remains intact. But several Republican lawmakers have sought to overturn the Home Rule Act so that then control of the district would return to Congress.
Could other cities see a federal takeover?
Trump's takeover of the DC police force isn't really a blueprint for how he could influence law enforcement in other major cities. DC is unique as a federal enclave where Congress has retained most of the control over the city and where he has specifically the authority to take control of the police department. He cannot just go into New York and say, I am taking over your police department. In other cities, such as New York or Chicago, there is a potential that he could deploy National Guard troops against local wishes, as he did in Los Angeles, in order to bolster local authorities, but that, again, they should not be participating in law enforcement. They would be providing support services in some way, unless he would invoke the Insurrection Act, and then they could basically do anything, including law enforcement.
I can't help but ask, why is it that Trump releasing the National Guard in D.C. is such an issue for you? Why is that so bothersome to your spirit? You sit back and complain. Somebody need to step up. Somebody need to do something about these streets. But then, when somebody step up and actually start doing something about the streets, you have a lot of mouth. Pick a side. You're not doing nothing other than sitting back and complaining that somebody needs to do something. And then, when somebody steps up to do something, you have everything negative to say. Why is it a problem that Trump trying to make the streets safe for you, me, our families, our kids, aunties, uncles, to walk up and down the street worry-free? And that's rattling your spirit. Is that not what you want? Is that not what you have been asking for? You sit back and complain all day. But then when somebody step up to the plate and try to resolve the issues that you're complaining about, you have a lot of mouth. There is no pleasing y'all. Why is this such a bothersome to your spirit? You knew this was coming. Why are you so bothered? Trump is doing more for these streets than anybody has ever done. And that's our president. That's what he's supposed to do. What's the issue?
Let me just say this right now. What's going on in Washington, D.C. needs to happen to every Democratic-ran city in the United States that's failing. You name me some Democratic-ran cities that aren't failing. You can leave them in the comment sections. Please let me know. But these Democrat-failed cities like Baltimore, Maryland, Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, these cities need the same type of action that Trump is doing in Washington, D.C. He needs to do it into those cities because they're failing cities. Albany, New York, there's one I can testify on for myself. I've been going to the city of Albany. I was born there. I've been going back and forth from there since the 80s. And when you go back there now, it's like you're in a third world country. The downtown Albany area that I grew up in and I always knew is gone. It is over. You ride through them streets, it is like the end of the world is happening.
Trump's administration just said if you're homeless in DC and you don't cooperate, they'll throw you in jail. Yeah, you heard that right. Jail for being poor. Let me break this down. Trump federalized the DC police, rolled out 800 National Guard troops, 500 federal cops, and even more. And now they're going to tent to tents cities, right? Telling people go to the shelter we pick, take the services we choose, or face fines, and yes, even jail time. And Trump, well, he went on Truth Social and literally said the homeless have to move out immediately. The criminals, we're going to put you in jail where you belong. You're calling people criminals for existing without a home. That's pretty disgusting. And listen, I've seen what it looks like when governments decide certain people aren't worth protecting, and it always starts with this kind of dehumanizing language. We've got veterans, parents, kids, seniors sleeping outside because our government refuses to build enough affordable housing or fund mental health programs. And instead of fixing it, this administration is using troops and cops like it's a damn military operation. And don't think this stops in DC. This is a blueprint. They'll test it here, and if we don't push back, they're going to bring it to LA, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, anywhere they want to clean up for the cameras. You see, this isn't about safety. This is about optics, power, and erasing the people they don't want you to see. Please follow, comment, and share this video. Hit the link in my bio to follow me everywhere else just in case this app does go away. And answer me this. If jail is the solution, then where do these people go when they get out? Or is that the point? To make sure they never get out.
The president's federal takeover of the D.C. police can only last for up to 30 days before Congress is essentially required to step in and either pass an extension or tell him to stop it. The president said today 30 days isn't enough, and he's likely to ask Congress for some kind of an extension and possibly national legislation on policing policy. Overnight, there were more than 40 arrests made as part of the federal takeover of D.C., with more National Guard troops expected on the streets of the nation's capital tonight.
President Trump has placed the D.C. police under federal control. He is also deploying the National Guard in D.C. He gave a press conference today. You can see the wall-to-wall coverage of him announcing this move. The president stated today that he is going to be removing homeless encampments around the city, working with the police and National Guard to bring quote-unquote crime under control. This comes still following lots of controversy surrounding other scandals coming from the White House. Today, a federal judge ruled that Ghislaine Maxwell's grand jury testimonies and documents will not be released to the public. This is a huge kind of breaking moment. As you can see, Pam Bondi said that they were going to be working with courts to make sure that these documents were released. I'm Owen Richard. I'm going to keep you updated. I'm going to be on the ground today in downtown Los Angeles at a press conference with Mayor Bass, and I'm going to ask her about some of these things happening. Keep you updated. Have a great day.
President Donald Trump is taking control of Washington, D.C.'s police department and deploying the National Guard. Here's what we know. On Monday, Trump announced that the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department will now be under federal control. He's also sending in National Guard troops, saying it's to make the nation's capital safer. Now, the president has promised new steps to address homelessness and crime in the city, but D.C.'s mayor has raised concerns about the possibility of the National Guard patrolling neighborhoods. Now, hours before a planned news conference, Trump posted online that Washington would be liberated today and that he would end what they call the days of ruthless, hurting innocent people. Now, guys, this is a developing story, and officials are expected to release more information about this for like how long federal control of the police department will last, among other things. So I'm gonna follow up on this and try to keep giving you guys the latest information. But I want to know your thoughts. Let me know. Comment below.
Liberation Day, that is what President Trump actually said today was in Washington, D.C. He declared today as Liberation Day as he is bringing in over 800 National Guard leaders to take control of Washington, D.C. saying Washington, D.C. is out of control. There is too much crime going on there, and there are too many homeless people in our nation's capital. So he's asking for a little extra help with the National Guard to try to do something about this problem. The D.C. mayor is saying that this is absolutely ridiculous. She says there's no emergency on crime. Crime was actually dropped. But you guys, we have learned that they have been downgrading the crime statistics, so making it so it seems as crime is not as bad as it truly is. We know that it's bad. We see what's going on. We hear about the shootings every day that are taking place in D.C. Also, the Washington Post is saying that crime is down 26%. Times is reporting that Donald Trump is just being a little bit crazy in doing this. But Fox News is saying, you know what, this is a problem. We need to take control of this problem. What do you guys think about this? Have you noticed crime in Washington, D.C.? I know what I've noticed, and let me know your thoughts on this one.
President Trump just deployed the National Guard to the District of Columbia. Let's talk about it. The president is commander-in-chief of the D.C. National Guard, which is unique among the 50 states and territories, so he can deploy it without the governor's approval. So let's talk about what the National Guard and federal law enforcement can do and what they can't. They can enforce federal control over the D.C. Police Department. The president can redirect MPD services for federal purposes under Section 740. They can patrol and make arrests in serious cases. Federal agents and guard troops have already made 23 arrests, including for homicide, firearms offenses, DUI, reckless driving, and seized illegal weapons. They can operate without mayor or governor's approval because D.C. has no governor. The president alone may order the D.C. Guard into action. They can stay deployed for 30 days. Now, here's what they can't do. They can't engage in long-term federal control without congressional approval. Any extension beyond 30 days requires congressional authorization. And importantly, they cannot do this in other cities. This maneuver is unique to D.C. Other cities have governors and state-controlled guards and require state consent or emergencies under broader federal law. So, in the president's executive order, he claimed that crime is out of control in the District of Columbia and that there is rising violence in the capital. But here's the thing, violence in the capital is actually falling. After a spike in 2023, violent crime declined in 2024 and has declined again so far in 2025. But let us be clear. D.C. continues to suffer from persistently high homicide rates. According to data gathered by the Council on Criminal Justice, it's still nearly 7 times higher than New York City's rate. D.C.'s rate is also worse than that of Philadelphia, Atlanta, and even Chicago. And violence is heavily concentrated in under-resourced neighborhoods.
Long time no see. Ignore that. Donald Trump has decided to deploy 1,000 plus National Guard troops into DC neighborhoods. I currently live in Ward 8, and as of last night, I saw 6 or 7 trucks that were undercover come into my Ward 8 neighborhood. They were outside all night. It was actually kind of weird. I didn't hear anything about this until I went in my house after work and looked at what this whole thing is going to become. Donald Trump, he says that crime is out of control in Washington, D.C., and that he will do a 7-day surge to put in federal agents in place of D.C. Metropolitan Police going into D.C. neighborhoods to ensure that these neighborhoods are safe. Why are you doing this when crime is statistically lower than it has been from the year of 2024 currently? Even last night, going into our neighborhoods very late at night, past 8 p.m., it's dark outside, and you are sending undercover cars into these neighborhoods, you're looking for trouble where there's no trouble. This is him trying to start a takeover for not only the District of Columbia, but all states, to put his presence where it doesn't need to be.